He is an ambitious, wealthy heir named Yong-gi, who wants to invest in building a resort on vacant land in Vietnam. The accompanying broker introduces him to a partner and suggests they meet up. A dilapidated van stops in front of Yong-gi, and a man greets him with a smile. The naive Yong-gi does not think twice and gets directly into this stranger's car. But as soon as he sits down, the man in front looks at Yong-gi as if he were an idiot, as if the wealthy scion before him is already a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Yong-gi is beaten until his face is covered in blood, and immediately after, the man pulls out a sharp knife and slices off Yong-gi's ear. This vicious kidnapper is named Hae-sang, and anyone who falls into his hands is unlikely to leave alive. Meanwhile, in a residential area of Seoul, South Korea, a mentally unstable man holding a fruit knife has taken a mother and daughter hostage in a convenience store. He waves the knife incessantly, making everyone afraid to approach, and just as the police are at their wits' end, a burly man in a suit arrives in a rush. He is the one everyone calls the monster cop, Seok-do. With him there, everyone finds their backbone. Seok-do asks his colleagues to attract the man's attention at the front, while he quietly circles to the back of the shop, preparing to catch him off guard. Unfortunately, his physique is too massive, and he accidentally knocks over an entire row of shelves. Now, the man's attention is entirely focused on him. With no other choice, Seok-do has to go in hard. He tries to talk him down while slowly approaching, but the man lunges directly at him. Seok-do resolves this little trouble with just 2 or 3 moves. He tries to pull the man up, but the guy is relentless and bites him, so he has to use force to make the man settle down. Seok-do's heroic image hits the newspapers again, and to reward him for resolving various disputes, his superiors arrange for him and Captain Ilman to go on a trip to Vietnam to extradite a Korean criminal detained there. This kind of relaxed overseas assignment is practically a vacation at public expense, and Seok-do begins to look forward to this wonderful journey. But he has no idea that another wave of bloodshed is waiting for him. This overseas trip starts off poorly. As soon as the two get off the plane, they are stopped by Vietnam customs. Their English is poor, and after talking for a long time, no one understands them. The two wait in a sweltering room for quite a while before the consulate police officer Chang Soo finally arrives. Seok-do and Ilman are taken to the South Korean consulate in Vietnam. Since tens of thousands of Koreans pour into Vietnam every month, the walls are plastered with lists of missing persons. As for Jong-hoon, the fugitive they are to escort back, Chang Soo explains that he turned himself in, claiming his conscience got the better of him. Seok-do finds this laughable. In all his years as a cop, this is the first time he has heard such a reason for surrendering. And this surrendering criminal is the very same person who acted as the broker for Yong-gi a few days ago. Seok-do does not believe Jong-hoon's reason for surrendering at all and demands he honestly explain the real reason. But Jong-hoon acts like a rogue, refusing to state the real reason and even acting arrogantly towards Seok-do. Seok-do decides it is time to use the room of truth. Ilman certainly knows what that means. He immediately sets up the scene, blocks the corner camera, and guards the door. Meanwhile, Seok-do walks up to Jong-hoon with a smile. Since there is no motorcycle helmet on hand, he presses Jong-hoon's head onto the table and smashes the table hard with his iron fist, nearly bursting Jong-hoon's eardrums. Unable to endure the power of the fist of truth, Jong-hoon is forced to tell Seok-do the real reason he turned himself in. It turns out that he and his 2 brothers collaborated with a kidnapper named Hae-sang to abduct the wealthy heir, Yong-gi. While in the car, the 2 groups argued over the division of the loot. Just as the 2 sides were about to fight, Yong-gi, who had been pretending to be unconscious, suddenly opened the door and ran out. They couldn't let him escape, so they all quickly chased after him. Yong-gi was eventually tackled, and Jong-hoon's older brother was so angry he wanted to poke a few holes in him with a dagger. Just as Yong-gi was begging for mercy, Hae-sang, who had just caught up, swung his machete. Hae-sang ruthlessly hacked Yong-gi to death. This scared Jong-hoon and his group silly. Jong-hoon's brother cursed him for being a madman, but in the next second. At this point, Jong-hoon and his accomplice realized how terrifying Hae-sang was. They kept their heads down and dug a hole to bury the body, afraid Hae-sang would chop them up too. Although they had already looted a bag of money from the dead Yong-gi, Hae-sang was not satisfied. He felt he could squeeze a little more out of this. He told Jong-hoon and the other to stop digging, then took off his vest and picked up his machete again. He took a photo of the severed hand and sent it to Yong-gi's father, Chun-baek, far away in Korea, demanding Chun-baek send another 500 million won. The money was sent within 2 days, but Jong-hoon was afraid of being killed by Hae-sang, so he surrendered and hid in the consulate. Hearing about a major case, Seok-do immediately gets energized. Ignoring Chang Soo's warnings not to cause trouble in Vietnam, he excitedly finds the courtyard where Hae-sang once stayed and kicks the door open. Sure enough, they dig up bodies in the courtyard, and surprisingly, they uncover 4 in total. So many dead people alert the Vietnamese police. The police chief rushes to the scene in a rage, scolding Seok-do and his partner for causing trouble as foreigners and demanding they get out immediately and return to Korea. Ilman cannot help but want to stand up to the chief, but Seok-do pulls him aside because the other side has pulled out guns, and at this moment, hard fists are useless. Seok-do can only investigate secretly before their flight back tomorrow. He is determined to take this Hae-sang back with him. Meanwhile, on the other side of Ho Chi Minh City, several thugs who had just arrived from South Korea, guided by a local street punk, found a house. The group ransacks the house and finds a suitcase full of money. This turns out to be Hae-sang's latest base, and these thugs were sent by Chun-baek with the goal of taking out Hae-sang and bringing the ransom money back. Elsewhere, Seok-do and Ilman arrive at an underground casino run by Koreans. According to information from an informant, the boss here might have information on Hae-sang. A thug who has never seen these two before grabs Seok-do as he tries to walk in, and the result is predictable. But this slap does not intimidate the others. A group of them, eager to try their luck, rush at Seok-do. After knocking down a few minions, the casino boss, Raku, finally reveals himself. Raku is defiant and wants to trade blows with Seok-do, but a single strike from Seok-do is enough to teach him a harsh lesson. Raku pulls a pistol from his back waistband, thinking he has control of the situation, but before he can shout a few threats, Seok-do snatches the pistol away. Now he cowers. The other thugs prepare to rush up and fight, but Seok-do waves the pistol, and everyone hits the floor in fear. Eventually, Seok-do obtains Hae-sang's latest address from Raku. On the way, Seok-do receives a call from Hong-seok, who shares a strange discovery. The father of the murdered Yonggi never even reported the crime. His name is Chun-baek, the owner of a loan shark company, and he appears to be no ordinary character himself. Meanwhile, Hae-sang is heading home with his subordinate. As he approaches his door, he suddenly stops, staring motionless at the ground. There is a cigarette butt still smoking on the ground. This man has fought and killed his way here, and his vigilance is extremely high. He understands someone is waiting for him inside, but even so, he opens the door and walks in. After looking around, he suddenly walks into the bathroom and slams the door shut. The ambushing hitmen reveal themselves, holding knives and slowly approaching the bathroom. One hitman cautiously twists the door handle, only to be suddenly pulled inside. Screams constantly echo from the bathroom. The next second, the door opens, and Hae-sang, covered in blood, finally appears before the crowd. His subordinate, Duik, also smashes through the door from behind. It seems these two plan to wipe out every hitman in the room. Hae-sang engages in close quarters combat with several hitmen in the narrow room, both sides slashing desperately with sharp blades. In such a cramped environment, it is kill or be killed. This fierce man is clearly a butcher who has survived a mountain of corpses, swinging his machete ruthlessly at all enemies. Even if he drops his knife, he grabs anything at hand to hit and smash. In this moment, there is absolutely no time for thought. Pausing for a second could mean losing your life. Eventually, Hae-sang and his partner are the only ones left standing in the room. He discovers the money in the cabinet has been taken, and in a rage, he hacks at a hitman who is still breathing to vent his anger. He questions the hitman leader about who sent them. The leader initially acts tough and curses non-stop, but after Hae-sang slashes his stomach, the leader finally admits they were sent by Chun-baek. Then, the arrogant Hae-sang calls Chun-baek directly, demanding he return the money immediately, or else he will come to Korea to kill him. Chun-baek thinks this man is a complete lunatic and hangs up the phone. Hae-sang is a bit helpless. It seems no one believes what he says. Just then, a taxi pulls up downstairs. Seok-do and Ilman have arrived. For self-defense, Ilman brings the pistol they confiscated earlier. The two walk into the room and are startled. The room is full of bodies lying in every direction, indicating how tragic the battle was just now. They also find several Korean passports in the room. It seems this Hae-sang specializes in kidnapping Koreans in Vietnam. Seok-do also finds Yonggi's passport. Just then, Hae-sang suddenly bursts in and hacks Ilman's shoulder with a blade. Seok-do rushes over, lifts Hae-sang up and slams him viciously into the wardrobe. Korea's strongest cop finally faces off against the fiercest bandit. Duik also jumps out at this moment, slashing at Seok-do. Seok-do fights two armed strongmen barehanded. Despite his broad and massive physique, he is extremely agile, dodging back and forth between the two swinging sharp blades, completely unharmed. Seok-do knocks Duik down with one punch. This punch leaves Hae-sang stunned, as he didn't expect the man before him to be so powerful. At this moment, a gunshot rings out. Hae-sang knows he is outmatched, feigns a strike, turns, and runs. Seok-do quickly chases and tackles Hae-sang, but is firmly held back by Duik from behind. Hae-sang picks up his machete, hesitates for a moment, and instead of going back to save Duik, he runs away alone. Duik is no match for Seok-do and gets completely crushed. By the time Seok-do chases him outside, he has already lost Hae-sang's trail. Ilman is hospitalized. With the incident blowing up this big, Chang-soo has a breakdown and tells Seok-do and Ilman that they have been deported and will be sent back to Korea immediately. But Seok-do is unwilling to accept it. Hae-sang hasn't been caught, and that is his biggest goal right now. He suddenly has a flash of inspiration, and a clever idea pops up. Seok-do asks Chang-soo to shout and cause a scene to draw away the guarding Vietnamese police, and then he sneaks into Duik's hospital ward. Seok-do makes a deal with Duik. If he reveals Hae-sang's next moves and plans, Seok-do will apply to take him back to Korea instead of letting him rot in a Vietnamese prison. The Vietnamese police chief arrives and orders men to tie Ilman up and send him to the airport. Just as several people were pulling at each other, Seok-do ran back and told Ilman to stay calm and leave with him. It seems he already knows Hae-sang's next destination. Seok-do and Ilman return to Korea. As soon as he gets off the plane, he drags Dong-gyun and sets off immediately. Since they don't know where Hae-sang will enter Korea, Seok-do decides to ask an old friend for information. This old friend is Yi-soo. After surviving being stabbed by Jang Chen, he changed industries and now specializes as a broker for stowaways. Yi-soo gets a headache the moment he sees Seok-do, and when he hears that Seok-do needs his help finding information on a smuggling boat, he impatiently starts putting on airs. Shortly after, Yi-soo becomes much more obedient. He finds out that a boat secretly docked at a nearby port early this morning. The Major Crimes Unit pulls the port surveillance and indeed spots Hae-sang in the early morning hours. Chun-baek also receives news that Hae-sang has returned to Korea. For self-protection, he has his subordinates recruit even more lethal hitmen. Money is no object, they must take out Hae-sang. At the same time, at Korean customs, 2 hitmen from the Philippines manage to slip through and enter Korea. A greater storm of blood is about to envelop the entire city of Seoul. The next day, Chun-baek holds a memorial service for his son. After the ceremony, his bodyguards take him to the underground parking lot to meet the newly hired hitman. A person silently follows behind them and enters the elevator with them. This person is none other than Hae-sang. He has come directly to Chun-baek. Hae-sang engages in a fight with Chun-baek's bodyguard in the elevator. The bodyguard is tall and incredibly strong. He actually chokes Hae-sang's neck and lifts him up. Seeing that he is about to be strangled, the fierce Hae-sang gives up the struggle, pulls out a dagger, and stabs it directly into the bodyguard's throat. Hae-sang looks at Chun-baek in the corner, proving that he always does what he says. Meanwhile, in the underground parking lot, the 2 Filipino hitmen also arrive in their car. They are preparing to meet their new employer. One of them suddenly notices that the people sitting in the van next to them seem to be colleagues in the same trade. With 2 groups of hitmen appearing in the same place, it looks like competition no matter how you look at it, so they decide to strike first. They yank open the car doors, grab sharp blades, and start slashing at the people inside. After taking down the last assassin who rushes out, they spot Hae-sang, who has just come down in the elevator. It turns out these 2 hitmen from the Philippines were hired by Hae-sang to help. The Major Crimes Unit also sent people to the memorial service. Sang-hoon spots Hae-sang in the underground parking lot through the building surveillance and sees him kidnapping Chun-baek. Terrified, he quickly calls his colleague patrolling the venue. The colleague sprints toward the parking lot exit, throwing his baton while running to try and stop the car, but the speed is too fast, and the kidnappers get away. Hae-sang plays his old trick again. He chops off Chun-baek's finger and tells Chun-baek's wife, In-suk, to prepare 2 billion won, or the next part he chops off will be up to his imagination. In the Major Crimes Unit office, everyone is silent as they watch the videotape sent by the criminal. No one expected Hae-sang to strike as soon as he arrived, and to do it so successfully, kidnapping Chun-baek directly. Just as everyone is at a loss, In-suk's phone rings. It is the kidnapper Hae-sang, telling In-suk to transfer the money directly to him. Unexpectedly, In-suk starts negotiating. Last time she gave money, her son still died, so who knows if her husband will return if she pays now. She haggles the price straight down to $2 million. Take it or leave it. Surprisingly, Hae-sang agrees and tells In-suk to bring the money alone in a suitcase tomorrow. Hearing this, Seok-do quickly writes a note for In-suk to see. The clever In-suk immediately catches on. She says she cannot drive and needs a driver to accompany her. This leaves Hae-sang quite speechless, and he can only agree to the request. Hae-sang wants to threaten her a bit more not to call the police, but unexpectedly, In-suk hangs up the phone directly. This leaves everyone in the Major Crimes Unit stunned. On the other end, Hae-sung is also stunned for a long time. It is truly the first time he has met such an impatient victim's family member. But actually, this woman is forcing herself to remain calm. After encountering so many tragedies in succession, her heart is already shattered. While Seok-do and Ilman marvel at how tough this woman is, they are also headaching over a problem. Who should be the driver? Hae-sung has been in the underworld for years. If they send a cop, he will definitely spot it at a glance. Seok-do thinks for a long time, and a perfect candidate suddenly pops into his head. Yi-soo is currently in his office, scamming 2 Filipino women about introducing them to rich, handsome Korean men. Just as he is preparing to smilingly take their money, Seok-do suddenly bursts through the door. He looks like a fierce gangster boss, scaring the 2 women who flee the office. Poor Yi-soo, he didn't make any money and gets dragged away and conscripted by Seok-do. Finally, it is time for the exchange. Yi-soo carries the heavy suitcase and gets into the car with In-suk. Looking at this large box, a different thought suddenly crosses Yi-soo's mind. Not far away, the Filipino hitmen, Ki-cheol and Sun-cheol, are secretly observing their every move. Besides them, every member of the major crimes unit has mobilized. They drive different cars, split up on different routes and speeds, secretly tracking and closely watching for any movement on the road. While waiting at a red light at an intersection, Hong Seok spots the Filipino hitman's car, but Hae-sung is not inside. It seems this guy is hiding in a secluded place, commanding remotely. Sure enough, not long after, In-suk receives a call from Hae-sung, ordering her car to turn around and drive the loop again. He gives this order to test if there are police following behind. As expected, Hong Seok, who is following, also wants to turn around, but is loudly stopped by Seok-do, who tells Hong Seok to keep driving forward. This time, Seok-do's own car goes up to trail them. While the major crimes unit is driving in circles with the bandits, on the other side, Dong-gyun is searching everywhere for Chun-baek's location. After driving around searching for a big circle, he finally discovers the car that was driven away when Chun-baek was kidnapped. It seems the hostage is nearby. Sure enough, inside a building, Dong-gyun finds Chun-baek lying on the floor. Just as he supports Chun-baek to leave, Hae-sung appears behind him. Dong-gyun is viciously stabbed twice by Hae-sung. In the critical moment, he desperately grips the bayonet and shouts for help, and the police waiting outside rush over upon hearing the noise. Seeing he cannot kill the cop in front of him, Hae-sung has to turn and flee. He gets into a silver Hyundai and speeds out of the abandoned site. While driving fast, he calls Ki-cheol, telling them to retreat immediately and stop following because the police have already rescued Chun-baek. But the Ki-cheol brothers are not happy. They foolishly listened to Hae-sung and drove around here for several laps. And now that the money is gone, they are told to leave. Naturally, the 2 brothers were unwilling to accept it. They wanted to keep the $2 million all for themselves. Hae-sung gives a helpless, bitter laugh. He can only jerk the steering wheel and head in their direction too. Learning that Chun-baek has been rescued, Seok-do decides to close the net and catch the Hitman brothers. But he doesn't know these brothers have acted first, overtaking and blocking In-suk's car, preparing to get out and rob the money. Seeing the situation is wrong, Yi-soo quickly reverses to escape. He panics and drives into a shopping mall's underground parking lot with the Ki-cheol brothers chasing closely behind. Yi-soo stops the car, wanting to take the suitcase and leave, but the Hitman brothers have already run over. With no choice, Yi-soo tells In-suk to run for her life, while he drives the car away alone. Sun-cheol throws himself on the hood and refuses to let go. Seeing him about to pull out a knife, Yi-soo slams the brakes hard, throwing him off. Without the hitmen chasing him, Yi-soo glances at the suitcase and decides to take the money and flee far away. At this time, the young police officers catch up. 2 young cops team up to deal with Sun-cheol, who is swinging an axe, and finally smash his head into the car window, subduing the criminal. Meanwhile, Ki-cheol cannot catch Yi-soo's car, so he turns to chase In-suk, following her all the way into the crowded shopping mall. The money is gone, so this woman is his only target now. In-suk runs desperately, but is still grabbed by Ki-cheol. Just as he menacingly demands where the money is with a knife, a hand tightly grips his wrist. Seok-do has arrived. Ki-cheol tries to use his knife on him. However, he cannot imagine how strong the man in front of him truly is. Ki-cheol is punched by Seok-do and rolls down the escalator, only to be carried back up by it. Now he knows fear and tries to crawl down constantly. Seok-do decides to give him a quick end. Yi-soo drives down the road in a frenzy of excitement, believing his luck has finally turned, but in the very next second, tragedy strikes. His car is smashed hard against a stone barrier by someone in stalls. It turns out Hae-sung has arrived. Seeing this man with a ferocious face, Yi-soo knows he is trouble. He quickly grabs the suitcase and jumps into a taxi before Hae-sung can catch him. Hae-sung, chasing madly, watches helplessly as the taxi disappears before his eyes. With nowhere to vent his rage, he draws his knife and stabs 2 arriving police officers to death right on the street. Having narrowly escaped disaster in a taxi, Yisu regains his composure and opens the suitcase, and a suitcase full of cash appears before his eyes. He is so excited he almost cries. He can finally turn his life around. Seok-do, however, has a splitting headache. Hae-sang got away, and several officers were stabbed. The ransom was also taken by the fleeing Yisu, leaving the street in complete chaos. This operation appears to have failed entirely, but things are far from over. The wanted Yisu calls a familiar boat captain at the pier, paying a heavy price for a smuggling boat to leave Korea. Just as he is trading for the boat ticket with the person sent by the other party, someone suddenly calls his name. Yisu sees a figure walk out of the darkness. The person is none other than Hae-sang. Yisu is utterly devastated. His happy life was just one step away. He still cannot let go of the box of money in his hand and decides to bluff and intimidate the other guy. Yisu's bluff fails, and he can only run away resentfully. Hae-sang laughs in anger. Even a coward like this dares to fight him for money. The $2 million ends up in Hae-sang's hands again. He avoids the police patrolling the roads and boards a bus that has just arrived. What he doesn't know is that Yisu hasn't actually gone far. He watches the number 39 bus drive away in front of him, then dials Seok-do's phone. The number 39 bus drives into an underground tunnel, and the speed suddenly slows down. There seems to be someone blocking the road with a light wand ahead. At this moment, a massive man boards the bus. He asks all passengers to get off because he is on official business. He even gently helps an old grandmother off the bus. Undoubtedly, the person arriving is the nemesis of all criminals, the monster cop, Seok-do. Hae-sang still wants to chat a bit. Enough with the bad jokes. Seok-do feels it is time to make a move. He fights barehanded against Hae-sang, who holds a machete. In the first round, they are evenly matched. Next, Seok-do increases the intensity. This time, he uses not only his fists, but also his legs, which he rarely uses. Hae-sang is also a desperado. His machete is knocked away, so he pulls out a dagger and stabs fiercely at Seok-do, attempting to use his moves that have killed countless enemies to end him. But they have no effect on Seok-do. After several rounds of exchanging blows, Seok-do has basically mastered Hae-sang's attack patterns and begins to unleash heavy hits on the enemy. After taking several punches from Seok-do, Hae-sang can surprisingly still get up and fight. This level of ruthlessness is unmatched. Hae-sang is like a jackal full of viciousness, refusing to admit defeat. Seok-do decides to end the battle quickly. He kicks Hae-sang out of the bus, smashing him heavily onto the ground. At this moment, Hae-sang is still putting up a desperate fight. He suddenly yanks off a windshield wiper and slashes Seok-do hard. Seok-do smashes him viciously against the car window. Another heinous criminal is taken down by Seok-do. Although he is covered in wounds, he dashes his sleeves casually, turning to head for the next place that needs his fists of justice. In the next movie, he will face off against a corrupt cop possessing super strength and wisdom. A new battle is about to begin.